Welcome back to the Daingeon, everybody. On today's episode, we're checking out another new projector from BenQ. This time, we're checking out the HT2060. It's a 1080p, 120hz gaming projector, and I think you're going to love it. Stick around.
Nice to be in orbit.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me here on the Daingeon. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe below. On today's episode, like I mentioned, we're checking out the BenQ HT2060. This is a new projector that is available for pre-order on BenQ's website. This is a 1080p 120hz gaming projector. It's going to be perfect for those who are really into those new games that are coming out that have those high refresh rates, great HDR, and need some brightness to make sure they have that big screen image quality that they want. Stick around today while I go through all of the features of this new projector, show you what it looks like on the big screen, and hopefully it's the right one for you. So let's get going. So I've been reviewing BenQ gaming projectors for a little over 2.5 years now, and the HT2060, which was announced at CES 2023, just came in the mail, and this thing is super awesome. It has a really nice finish with a brushed metal front fascia. It has a LED light source with 2300 ANSI lumens, 1080p native resolution, 16:9 aspect ratio. It supports 4K signals with 120 Hz for gaming, and the contrast ratio is just around 500,000 to 1. The projector can put out an image from 10.5 feet to about 100 inches, and you can actually bring it back a little bit between 12 and 16 feet and get just up to 150 inches. With its cinematic color DCI P3 and 98% Rec 709, the color gamut on this thing is awesome. The input lag is even better, 16.7 milliseconds for 1080p 60 Hz, which has super low input lag for smooth gameplay. It also has that vertical lens shift and 1.3 times big zoom. It is in pre-order status right now, but I'm going to unbox this thing and show you what you get. The packaging is simple, it's nice and compact. It comes with two items, the projector, and then it also comes with a box of the accessories. Inside the accessory pouch, you're going to find the backlit remote, which is your standard BenQ projector remote. It also comes with a power cord, the manual, as well as two AAA batteries so you can power that remote. This time it's just the BenQ remote. This controls only the projector. It doesn't have any type of built-in Android operating system. So in this case, you get all the core functions that you need to control the projector, such as your keystone, your HDR, your menus, etc. And then it has a nice backlight on it so you can see it in the dark. The projector looks really good. It's got a matte metal gray finish on the front, which includes the air inlet on the left-hand side and the lens, which houses the 4 LED light source behind it on the right side, along with an IR sensor. Turning the projector to its side, you'll notice there is an air exhaust fan on the left, as well as one 5-watt speaker on the right. And when you flip it around to the back, you'll notice that the BenQ has all of its inputs in one place. The back of the projector is very minimalist. In fact, when you look from it left to right, there's only a few ports that you can actually use. Aside from that, you have your audio in on the top left, you have an audio out on the bottom, an RS-232 port, your power plug. It has a 2.5 amp service port, which is powered by USB. You have HDMI 1, which is an HDMI 2.0B port, and you have HDMI 2, which is an HDMI 2.0B port, both supporting HDCP 2.2, and then another audio SPDIF jack. On the left side of the projector, you'll find an air inlet or an air intake fan and the left speaker, which is another 5-watt small speaker. Taking a look at the top of the projector, you'll notice in the top left-hand corner, you'll find the focus dial, the zoom dial, and the vertical lens shift dial, which is an awesome feature that they finally added to one of their LED gaming projectors, and I've been wanting this for a long time. If you're not familiar with what vertical lens shift is, I got a little picture here that shows that you can move the image once you have the projector mounted up 10% or down 10%, so you don't have to tilt the projector any vertical way and you can keep the image nice and square on your wall or screen. At the bottom half of the top of the projector, you'll also notice that we have all of the projector control pads, that same as you'll see on the remote. Your power button, your dial to move through the menus, your keystone, your eco blank, your source, your menu, and your back button, as well as another IR sensor. On the bottom of the projector, if you're interested in mounting it on your ceiling, you have the spot for your projector mount, 3 different M4 size holes, as well as 3 different feet if you're mounting it on a cabinet or some type of shelf. One of the nicest things about the HT2060 is its compact size. So the majority of the 4 LED projectors, including the X1300i and the X3000i, which are 4 LED projectors, is that they're rather large. They're that big cube form, and this is a nice small size that measures roughly 14 inches by 4 inches by 9 inches, and it's really small in comparison to like their bulb-based projectors, such as the TK700 or the TK700 STI. And you got to remember that the bulb-based projectors only last a certain amount of time before you have to replace the light source. On the HT2060, you get roughly like 20,000 hours out of the 4 LED light source. Another awesome feature of the 4 LED light source system is how quick it starts up. You'll notice here that once you hit that power button, it takes like roughly 10 seconds for this thing to boot up to the home screen, and you can start using it right away. Same thing when it powers down, you just hit the power button twice and the thing shuts down in just a few seconds and the fans turn off right away. Speaking of fan noise, right up next to it, I measured roughly 46 to 53 decibels of fan noise if you're sitting right next to it, and then if you're listening in your main listening position or you have the projector mounted, it's still only around 40 to 45 decibels, so it's super quiet. So in the next part of the video, I wanted to discuss the bread and butter of this HT2060 projector. It is a gaming projector. So right here I have the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, which are prime candidates for this projector because they produce a 120 Hz refresh rate signal. So this projector is super capable. Not only can it take a 4K signal and put out to a 1080p picture with 120 Hz, but it can also accept that 4K signal and do 60 Hz at low input lag. You can see here in the Xbox Series X home screen, it shows you 4K 60 capable and 1080p 120 Hz. Just keep in mind that you're not going to get a 4K 60 picture. It's going to downscale everything to 1080p, but you're still going to get those low refresh rates. Another awesome feature that I was blown away by is the sound of this projector. It has 2 5-watt speakers and it puts out some awesome sound. It can get really loud, so if you don't have your sound system set up or you're putting this in a room where you don't have one, the speakers work just fine. It doesn't have the most bass in the world, but it still has very clear audio.
Go up or down? Go the body part.
Next, I wanted to show everybody what it was like with the lights at 100% in the Daingeon, so you could see how bright the image is on the screen. And then I'll follow that up with what the lights are at 50%, so you can understand maybe if you have a few lights on, what it looks like. And then of course, in your prime lighting conditions, turn everything off and you get an awesome picture. Switching over over to the on-screen display and menu interface items, you'll notice here that there's a basic menu that it sets you up with. It has your picture modes, your sound modes, your light source, etc. Taking a look at the picture modes, you have 4 different things to select from. You have bright, which is a nice bright picture. Probably takes a little bit of adjustment of some of the color attributes, but you also have your living room mode, which looks really good out of the box. I'd highly recommend living room mode. You also have filmmaker mode, which is what the directors of movies and stuff intended it to be. And then lastly, you have your user mode, and that's where you can kind of set it up and leave it like if you have an SDR sports or something you want to put on. Some of the other basic screen menu options you have are your light source mode. You have eco, you have smart eco, and then you have normal mode. You kind of choose the one that's best for your environment. I did find that eco was plenty bright and it cut down on the fan noise. And then of course you also have some more options to adjust the picture with keystoning. Now I don't recommend doing any type of keystoning, especially if you're going to be gaming, because you'll lose on a little bit of input lag, but that option is there if you need it. And then of course you have fast mode, which resets everything and turns off any type of internal functions that are happening, so that way you get the lowest input lag possible when you're gaming. If you're a user that is very familiar with projectors, you can also switch it to advanced mode, and you can actually control quite a bit more features, especially when you're tuning and fine-tuning your projector image. You have a test pattern that you can use. You can go in all to the different color menus, adjust everything deep down within the system and get it exactly how you want it. It truly is nice. You have a bunch of selections to change the gamma. You have different selections that allow you to change the color temperature. You can adjust things like cool, warm, RGB, you name it. There's a lot of cool settings you can go through in that advanced menu. It even has several different sound modes that you can select from as well. So if you go to the sound selection setting, even with those 2 5-watt speakers, you can select from like a cinema mode, a music mode, you have a game mode, and you even have like a sports and an user mode. So you can really set it up to exactly how you want it to be with the sound as well. So if you don't have that sound system in your media room, this is a good option. All right, let's move along and do a little bit of gaming. I wanted to show you first how this detects a 2160p or 4K image at 60 Hz and processes it through the projector. Even though it's downscaled to a 1080p picture, I think the resolution looks awesome, especially when you have 4K HDR enabled in this projector. This is some test footage with Forza Horizon 5. The picture looks really, really nice. The HDR looks really, really good. It's super bright. You can see all the details in the background. It has a really good draw distance. This is a really good game to test out that 4K 60 Hz HDR signal and get that maximum potential out of a 60 Hz game. But if you're someone that's looking for a little bit more competitive gaming and you want that 120 Hz, just switch it on your Xbox Series X to 120 Hz. The projector will downscale the image correctly. It'll remove HDR, it'll put it into fast mode, and then all of a sudden you'll have that really low 8 millisecond input lag, and you can run that 1080p 120 Hz signal and remain very, very competitive. The color still looks extremely good. I think the contrast is just fine in SDR. But you can see here for yourself that some of the colors actually pop a little bit better. The gameplay is much improved because it's a faster response time. And honestly, I don't notice too much of a difference as far as image quality goes, but it's kind of to each their own. If you want to competitively game and have that low latency, I definitely just go with the 120 Hz feature. That's what it's meant for. If you do decide to leave it in the 4K 60 Hz mode and enable HDR, the software in the projector has some good settings you can go through, and you can actually adjust the HDR brightness. I kind of found that going through the different brightness levels, that maybe -1 or even 0 is the perfect brightness when you have HDR enabled. finally, if you want to see what HDR looks like in comparison to like filmmaker mode or one of the other modes, you can check it out right here. So here's HDR on. It's a little bit bright. Maybe that's the camera, but ultimately HDR looks fantastic. If you go through and you sit around at a spot on Forza, you can kind of spin around, look at all the different details that there are to offer, and then, you know, select and change and find the one that fits your need. Lastly, I did a comparison here of the 1080p 120hz signal and what it would look like if you sat around and kind of just surveyed the surroundings. Like I mentioned before, the color pop's really nice. It has very good contrast, even with that 1080p 120hz. And then I followed it up with switching it over to 4K 60Hz signal with HDR10. You can see that it obviously gets a little bit brighter. I think that is because of my camera, probably not processing HDR the way it should, but ultimately a very good clean picture. If you're into using this projector for movies, I have some good news. The black levels are excellent, and I'm talking about right out of the box. This thing really looks good. There was minimal adjustment, but when we did do some adjustments, we went over to the YouTube page and we pulled down the contrast and the brightness meters on YouTube. You can find these, I'll leave them linked below. This is an easy way to adjust just the brightness and the contrast of your projector, and we came up with some great results, as you can see here with this footage of this black horse, the red rose, the blue colors. It came out phenomenal. And then of course that translated perfectly over to movies. We watched Gemini Man, and it has that 60 Hz refresh rate, which looked amazing. All in all, this projector is really nice, and at that $999 price point, you cannot go wrong. It's a budget projector that's going to last a really long time with that LED light source, and I highly recommend this unit to anybody who's looking for a starter projector or something that they're just really anxious about gaming with. All right, everyone, thanks for joining me here today on the Daingeon. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe below. I appreciate you checking out this review of the BenQ HT2060. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them in the comments below. I'll also put links to all the stuff we talked about today in the description. So thanks for joining me here on the Daingeon, and we'll talk to you guys next time.